Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Tougies Take podcast. We are back after about a week off, aside from my little mini Toug Talk episode that I know Endo liked. I don't know if Sin got a chance to hear it. It was just me rambling. He didn't miss much. It was a fun time, though. But we are back. Sin is back after a lovely week with family, just about, it felt like, at least. So that was awesome for you. Endo's been dealing with all the computer issues in the world. He's been having a great time. And we're here today, back once again, to talk some hockey. Nearly a week's worth of hockey, so we are going to get right down to business in today's episode. We'll hold off on viewer questions because, boys, there are 1,000 things to talk about, including a player suspension that was announced about 10 minutes before we went to record, and I have some thoughts. Before we get into the hockey side of things, though, of course, as always, this podcast is brought to you by our friends at Manscaped. Still going on the Cyber Monday sale. If you listen to this podcast when it first goes up, 25% off everything site-wide. And, of course, as per usual, code Tougie at checkout, 20% off your order, free worldwide shipping at any other time. So make sure to check out Manscaped, the perfect stocking stuffer for you in this holiday season. It just might be a variety of different things for all those grooming needs. Endo and I can attest to it. I think Sin got his too, the brand new shampoo and conditioner 2-in-1, the body wash as well. They're fantastic. So again, check out our friends at Manscaped, and we thank them very much for supporting this show. And boys, with that, let's go to the way back. We are going to jump right into our day by day. It was easier to just kind of disperse a lot of the bigger talking points into the day by day as we cover each of these teams. So, Tuesday, Wednesday, it's a long time ago already. We would have talked about it on the last show. We'll kind of breeze through it. But we start off last Tuesday. The Tampa Bay Lightning beat the Philadelphia Flyers 4-0. We'll be talking about the Flyers a lot, but this was another Vasilevsky shutout and a Steven Stamkos goal, his 10th of the year. I mentioned the Vasi shutout because a lot of people have been asking about our updated awards predictions, and we'll get to those in the next episode at the beginning of the month, although we might have to delay it. I don't know. Yeah, Sin, you'll be here this Thursday.
Yeah, I'll be here this Thursday.
It'll be fine. So we'll be doing those on that show, so look forward to that. The Stars beat the Oilers 4-1. Remember when I said the Stars were going to get pooped on by Leon Draisaitl because they always do? Yeah, so much for that. But good news for the Stars. I mean, on this day at least, they were up to 8-7-2. And again, those star players are kind of heating up a little bit. And the final game on Tuesday was Calgary beating Chicago 5-2. Matthew Tkachuk, Johnny Gaudreau both getting their 9th of the year. Brandon Hagel his 6th for the Hawks, and that will not be the last time that we mention him on this show. We look ahead to Wednesday, because again, in terms of talking points from last Tuesday, man, it might as well have been 6 years ago at this point, right? With how much we have to discuss today. Last Wednesday, the Bruins beat the Sabres 5-1. It was the Sabres. Like, I'm not going to sit here and just be like, oh yes, it's Stanley Cup, here we come. But it was nice because you look at, 4 of the goals and who they were scored by. Bergeron 7th, Coyle's 6th, Pasta's 6th, Taylor Hall's 5th. Like, the key players, the big money players showed up in that particular game. Also on Wednesday, boy, I just mentioned them, and again, we'll talk about them a lot. The Flyers lost to the Florida Panthers. It was a 2-1 win for the Cats in overtime. Sam Bennett, his 7th of the year. Ekblad, his 6th. This dropped Philly down to 8-6-4, and it will not be the last Philly loss that we mention. And then, I'll give you both a chance to speak on this man. My vote for the Hart Trophy. It's Ryan Hartman. It's the Minnesota Wild beat the New Jersey Devils 3-2 last Wednesday. It was Hartman's 10th of the year. Notice how I said David Pastrnak just scored his 6th of the year. Prior to that, 10 goals for Hartman as of last Wednesday. I hate it. I hate it so much. And I know I think a lot of fan bases too, so you might be able to speak to this, because he's one of those players I always get comments on YouTube from people being like, fuck Ryan Hartman. And I think it's just because he managed to piss off a lot of fan bases, but Minnesota seems to be embracing him tremendously.
Yeah, I don't understand the hate for him. Again, the Sharks don't play the Wild that often, especially with how everything goes now. So I'm not too sure. I know I didn't expect him to ever be a guy with 10 goals like a quarter through the season, like about on pace for 30 to 40 goals, which is absolutely ridiculous. He was always looked to me like a third, fourth liner. And that's, I don't even know how old he is. He's just one of those players that even now you're just like, I don't know anything about him. Like he's going to do this twice, 2 seasons in a row, and then I might care. But good for the Wild and good for Ryan Hartman because he's found something that works. We'll see if he David Clarksons it up or something.
The Penguins beat the Canucks last Wednesday as well, 4-1. It pushed the Canucks to 6-12-2 on the season. We'll, again, have to talk more about them a little bit later on, but oof.
Yep.
Shout out to Evan Rodriguez, though, Elite 1C with 7 goals on the year. What the hell's up with that? The Capitals beat the Habs 6-3. Shout out to Cole Caulfield for the Habs, who scored his first of the year.
Yay.
It's not too late for that, Calder.
Yeah.
It's not too late. But this pushed the Habs. I mean, at this point, again, this is last Wednesday. The Caps at this point were 12-3-5. People have been trying to write off the Caps for seasons. They just keep persisting. And it pushed the Habs to 5-14-2. And obviously, there's an elephant in the room to get to later on that I can't wait to get to. The Blue Jackets beat the Jets 3-0 last Wednesday. Elvis Merzlikins with a shutout, which is pretty nice. I mean, still, I think everyone in the hockey world's rooting for him to have as good of a season as he possibly can. But that game was highlighted by our first example of something happening from the Department of Player Safety. It won't be the last. Josh Morrissey of the Jets was fined $5,000, the maximum allowable limit under the current CBA, for slashing Alex Texier after he scored after an empty net goal was scored. Morrissey just two-handed a guy. $5,000. That's fine.
Yep.
$5,000. I mean, I think if you really wanted to send a message, you probably would have suspended him for a game or two. I mean, you're talking about a $5,000 fine, and a certain Russian man was fined the same amount for throwing a glove at somebody. But, $5,000 for slashing a guy after an empty netter that made it 3-0. Good job to the DOPS there.
There's zero consistency across the board. There's zero precedent. No one knows what anything is. And because, this is a dangerous-ass play, but you're saying it's the same as a guy throwing a glove at someone. Now, I don't know if they're trying to prove to the point that the CBA sucks, but you know what? You need to, I don't know. You need to, that's a serious thing. That's a horrible example to be said. Yeah. You need to send a message. Kids are fucking watching this. Hey, kids, are you pissed about losing? 2-hand slash a guy after he scores an empty net goal. I don't, a $5,000 fine for that's a fucking joke.
Yep.
This entire episode, Endo, I mean, we'll talk about it later, but it's going to be overshadowed by the fact that we have some bigger conversations that we'll get to, but I think the DOPS conversation is probably going to be the most relevant, maybe. I don't know. It'll be fun. Also on Wednesday, Red Wings beat the Blues 4-2. Lucas Raymond, 8th of the year, Dylan Larkin, his 10th. I want to point this out. The Red Wings at 9-3. Not too bad, given what we expected them to be this year. The Blues at that point on Wednesday had fallen to 10-7-2. Remember what Sin said when they were 7-0-1? He's like, let's wait until they play a few more tougher teams. And now all of a sudden, as the last Wednesday, they were 10-7-2. So, just saying, I think you hit the nail on the head on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes hatred and salt gives you good takes. What can I say?
Hey, you do what you got to do. This podcast wouldn't be a thing if it wasn't for hatred and salt.
Yeah.
The New York Rangers beat the New York Islanders 4-1. Chris Kreider, 14th and 15th of the year. Kevin Rooney also had a 2-goal performance to get his 4th and 5th of the year. And it was a 2-assist night for Ryan Reeves. On the flip side, Alexi Lafreniere fought. You'd think those roles would be reversed. But yeah, Chris Kreider. The Rangers they're one of the most bizarre teams in the league. They're 12-4-3 after that game. Chris Kreider. We'll talk more about him in a minute here, too, because good God. The Vegas Golden Knights beat the Nashville Preds 5-2. Again, key players for the Knights getting goals. 2-goal game for Philip Forsberg, who, I haven't heard too much about Philip Forsberg this year from Preds fans, aside from just everyone's kind of expecting him to get traded. Like, I feel like a lot of the conversation surrounding Matthias Ekholm transferred over to Forsberg once Ekholm was re-signed. It's like, yeah, we're probably moving on from this guy. Yeah. And I'm intrigued to see if they do, right? Because you get rid of Arvidsson, but you keep Ekholm. You might get rid of Forsberg. Johansson and Duchesne, especially Duchesne, haven't been that bad this year. I don't know what direction Nashville's necessarily going to go in. Like, if they get the idea that, like, oh, we're only a few pieces away, then you could see them going down a certain path that won't benefit them long term. But they're in this really weird middle ground, and I don't really know what to think of, like, where they're going.
I don't think they do either. They've been in this situation for how long? I feel like it's been at least like
since they went to the Stanley Cup final.
Yeah, like it's going on like 5. Oh my God, it's already 5. No, is it 5 years? I don't know. It's a long time. My timeline is so screwed. There's 2017, right? So
yeah,
almost 5
because it was
years.
Sharks Pens in 16 and then Preds Pens in 17.
Yeah, so it's almost 5 years of this weird floundering thing they're doing where they like look like they're rebuilt. And again, maybe it's just because they're one of those market teams and you don't hear about them too often. They're never really in hockey news, like at all. And they're it's like I don't know what they're doing. I already forgot who they signed. I know they traded someone, or maybe they didn't trade someone to Philly. They just signed someone from who was on Nashville. Again, it's just like one of those teams. Like I don't even think they know what they're doing, and it's I don't know. I don't know what to make of them because they're just been kind of floundering, and they don't seem to have an actual direction, which is not going to benefit them.
Yeah,
that's spot on. Honestly.
Yeah. I'm trying to let Endo get a word in here, but
no, it's fine. You guys are. I'm still pissed off about everything that's going on in my personal life right now. No, for a little bit of context right now. So I have a weird situation with my GPU where I cannot edit any videos. Therefore, I cannot make any money. I cannot do my job. But lo and behold, I can fucking stream. For some fucking reason, excuse my French, I can do everything but my job. And it's great. I'm okay. Well. Yeah, I'm just like trying to send something out right now. Sorry for me super distracted. You have my full attention right now.
Do what you got to do.
Okay.
The Colorado Avalanche beat the Anaheim Ducks last Wednesday as well. Cal McCarr scored his 8th of the year. Nazem Kadri scored his 7th. He keeps doing well.
Jesus.
But in this game, head coach Jared Bednar became the winningest coach in Colorado Avalanche history.
How is that even possible?
Wow.
Okay, so here we go. Let's go through the history of these coaches, right? So the original coach of the Avs was Mark Crawford, another man who is still in hockey. He'll never go away, ever.
Oh, boy, club.
But he only coached the team from 95 to 98. They won a cup in that time. But in those 3 years, 135 wins. That's second all-time in team history. Or, excuse me, third now. He was replaced by Bob Hartley, who coached the team from 98 to 02. They also won a Stanley Cup in that time. He won 193 games. Jeez. And he was the winningest coach, but Bednar now on 194, bare minimum. And then you had Tony Granato coach the team for 2 years. Tell me if you remember this one. Joel Quenneville.
What?
Coached the Avalanche from 05 to 08.
Okay.
Peanut butter.
I have no recollection of Joel Quenneville ever coaching the Colorado Avalanche.
Neither do I. And
I don't want to
think what kind of team they were at that time. 05 to
Not
08.
Good.
Yeah, I don't think they were not good for a really long time.
Yeah.
Like they were probably not good, then went to mediocre, then went to not good again in like the 2010s.
Well, okay, so I'm looking at it for Colorado here. 05, 06, second in the Northwest Division, lost in the semifinals to Anaheim in the playoffs. 06, 07, missed the playoffs, and then 07, 08, lost to Detroit in the semifinals.
Can't have shit in Detroit.
So 2 semifinals appearances in 3 years,
That's
and then
not bad,
he skipped town to go to Chicago, and we all know what happened then.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And then to round this out, Tony Granato, 08 to 09, he replaced Quenneville. Joe Sacco from 09 to 2013.
Sacco, not Sakic.
Sacco, yeah, Joe Sacco.
And no Flacco and Sacco.
Is an assistant coach with the Bruins, actually.
Huh.
Wow.
And then Patrick Waugh from 2013 to 2016.
Oh, yeah.
And then Jared Bednar. Jared Bednar is the longest tenured head coach in the history of the Colorado Avalanche.
Yeah, that's kind of nuts. I can't believe that it wasn't the same coach from like the 90s to the early 2000s when they were like kicking ass. That surprises the hell out of me. Again, I didn't pay attention to coaches back then, obviously. I was a literal kid, but
Yeah. I was an infant.
So yeah, in their history between 95 and 2016, no head coach coached more than 4 years.
that's crazy.
And they had 6 different coaches in that time.
Jesus.
And it's like, yeah, you have McKinnon now, but you had like Sakic and Forsberg and like Foote and
Yeah, the good
And
team.
again,
Yeah,
they
the
won
good.
2 cups.
Milan Hajduk. Like, holy crap.
Adam Foote. Like, it's just... I mean, yeah, I will say, fun thing to look at, though. I might actually go back and watch this now. On YouTube, I think still there's a documentary about the 04 Avalanche that was an HBO special. And I'm pretty sure it's James Hetfield doing the voiceover randomly. But it covers, like, Korea and Sakic going to the Avalanche. And, of course, they lost in, like, the second round that year or whatever. But it's awesome.
There. I forgot
I
Korea
recommend...
was on other teams.
Dude, Paul Correa was on Nashville, wasn't he?
Yeah, I vaguely remember that.
St. Louis.
What? He was on St. Louis?
Because I had a Paul Correa St. Louis jersey. I ended up selling it, but
Weird.
yeah, I had a Correa St. Louis
So
jersey.
weird.
It wasn't a jersey foul. It was real.
I
That's so
remember him
weird.
going to the Avs. Didn't Solani go to the Avs too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was what the documentary was covering. Like, Correa and Solani were both on the Avs at the same time.
Yeah.
It was really weird.
That's really weird.
Also on Wednesday, the Leafs kicked the shit out of the LA Kings 6-2. Everybody scored. Bunting, Spezza, Tavares, Matthews, Engvall.
All the
Pierre Engvall scored.
All,
That's how much of a shit kicking it was.
all the Warriors. Oh my God, love it.
I mean, I know you never want to get too much into the Leafs. You're gonna have to in a little bit.
Well, I
I'll
will.
let
It's
you-
they're doing well. We're gonna get to it for sure.
Yes, we will. The Kraken beat the Hurricanes last Wednesday. The Kraken 6-12-1 at that point. The Hurricanes 14-3-1. Kraken win at 2-1. Jared McCann scored his 8th of the year. Interesting stat about the Kraken coming up in a bit. The Oilers beat the Coyotes. Who'da thunk it? 5-3. McDavid 2-goal game. 13th and 14th of the year. Draisaitl 2-goal game. 19th and 20th of the year. Keep in mind, I said the Oilers had played 19 games, and Draisaitl has 20 goals at that point. Insanity.
And then he was quoted as saying it's not realistic for me to get like 82 goals, score every game. Something like that. I'm like, motherfucker, it just might be. Like, you haven't slowed down. I mean, maybe, honestly, I think he could get 70 goals.
Yeah.
I really think
that'd
he
be
could
great.
get 70. Like, when's the last time we had a 70 goal score? Was it Solani with the Jets?
I think so.
Oh, let's see.
Or
List of NHL 70 goal scorers. There is an autofill
Brett
for
Hall.
that.
the
Let's see.
Stars.
Most goals in one NHL season. I mean, in terms of 70, it looks like the last time that was done was the 93 season with Teemu Solani at 22 years old, scoring 76 goals in 84 games. That same year, by the way, Alex Mogilny also scored 76 goals. What the fuck?
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, in terms of a 70 goal score, the last time it happened was 1993. From what I'm looking at.
I hope he doesn't.
God, and then it's like you had. Has there been anybody? Okay, so Ovi has the most goals post like 1996.
Yeah.
In a season, he scored 65 goals in 07-08. And even that feels like unrealistic to catch. I mean, Ovi, okay, here we go. So in terms of players post-lockout, 2005, that is, Ovi has 65 goals in the season. There's only one other player to score 60 goals in the season. Do either of you know who that is? We have talked about him on this show as having potential for being a phenomenal goal scorer, maybe one of the best ever, but injuries have slowed him down.
No. Steven Stamkos.
Hey!
Oh,
There you go.
Oh, yeah, he had a 60-goal year.
Yeah, he did.
11-12.
Then he turned into a
11,
cripple.
12.
And yeah.
Oof.
Listen.
Inappropriate.
He's Glassbones Greg. Like when he's healthy, he's great. But when he's not, it's not great. Not that he's not a good player, but just it's sidelined his career, and he could have been up there, but he's still up there, but he's not like up there.
Yeah, that was pretty much the gist of our conversation the other week was that he could have been way up there. Also in that game, Ilya Lyabushkin, who I like a lot. He's a really good defenseman for the Yotes. But he did cross-check Connor McDavid nearly head first into a goalpost. So thank God Connor's okay is all I can say, because I think that's the last thing anybody wants to see, unless you live in Calgary, is to see McDavid or Draisaitl get hurt this year.
Yeah.
And that was the final collarbone too.
Yeah, right. He has that history too of.
I think it was the other side. Maybe I'm not too sure which side it was.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And then the final game last Wednesday, final game before Thanksgiving, the Sharks beat the Sens 6-3. Matt Nieto scored. Nick Bonino scored.
Finally.
Hurdle, Meyer, Couture, they all scored. Sounds like it was a fun time, Sin. I don't know if you remembered. It was the day before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I do. I watched that game. It wasn't the cleanest thing of all time. It's the Senators, and they kind of struggled at times against them. The Senators took a lead, scored 3 unanswered and took a lead, which was not cool. But Nieto scoring was nice. Bonino finally getting his first point in, game 20 or, I don't know, 19. It was ridiculous. Yeah, he was the most snake-bitten person on the planet. Finally got a goal. And then, of course, the big boys, Hurdle, Meyer, Couture. It's just good. This team just flat out, they're kind of weird where it's they don't destroy the bad teams and they don't get destroyed by the good teams. They're kind of in this weird spot where they're just, every game, if they play to their system, they're going to have a chance to win, which is nice. It's nice to see because, and I'm sure we'll talk about them later as they beat one of the better teams or...
Indeed.
My timeline's off. I don't know.
We need to talk about every team almost in depth. That's how crazy this past week has been.
Yeah.
We'll move to Friday. First game, Black Friday. The matinee is tradition for the Boston Bruins, where they played the New York Rangers and lost 5-2. It was the Rangers' third win in a row. They've won 7 of their last 10. In this game, Artemi Panarin scored his 5th of the year. Lafreniere is 5th of the year. Hey, remember when we talked about Lafreniere struggling? Yep. He has 5 goals now. Dryden Hunt broke the camera on the center post on a goal. He hit the lens dead on. Hilarious. Oh, and Chris Kreider almost scored a fucking Michigan. Chris Kreider's trying the Michigan now. How much confidence does this man have?
I feel like this Rangers team embodies this NHL season the most, where it's maybe you expected them to be good, but you didn't expect them to have the record they do, and they probably, you could even argue until now, shouldn't have had the record they had because of their goal differential. It's starting to get better now with their last couple games, but think about it. Kreider scoring a bunch, Hartman scoring a bunch, all these other names where you're who the fuck is this, are getting good this year. The Sharks are above 500. Timo Meier is one of the top point per game guys in the NHL. What? This season is so bizarre, and I feel like the Rangers are one of those teams that kind of best represents that this season. And Tougie has a look on his face. I'm not too sure what it is.
So there is breaking news within the Bruins world. We were gonna, and obviously we will still talk about the Bruins a little bit later on. I referenced the Brad Marchand suspension. This comes from Ryan Rashog of TSN. Spoke with Rick Vallette today, the agent for Jake DeBrusk. He has confirmed that he has asked for a trade over the past weekend. It's felt a change of scenery moving forward would be beneficial. DeBrusk will remain with the team while the Bruins try to facilitate the request.
You know what you need, Tougie, as a center.
So here's the thing.
We'll give you Tomas Hertl for all your firsts.
So here's the
Tavares,
thing, right?
please. Take Tavares.
The Sharks immediately come to mind for 2 reasons. One, a player who just went through waivers.
No, you're not grabbing
Which I
him.
would.
No.
Please God, no. That's my immediate worst case scenario.
Dude, sending Evander Kane to Boston would be the worst thing ever. Dude. Boston, if you get into those North Shore fuckers, they're gonna.
I can already hear the racism from the fans in the arena already.
Oh
God. Man,
yeah,
God,
they're ready to break out the hard R.
Yeah, I use the A.
I use neither.
I hope
I'm not a piece of shit.
I fucking hope not.
So that aside, on the flip side, in a positive way, I'd like to think that maybe, just maybe, possibly, potentially, please God, could this be the catalyst? It obviously wouldn't be 1-for-1. There'd be other pieces involved, certainly. But the best case scenario I can possibly see of a Jake DeBrusk trade is for Tomas Hertl to come to Boston. Please God. And that might be the only way I'm content with Jake DeBrusk moving on. I don't know. Like, it's been rumored for so long now. He's on the last year of his deal. DeBrusk is. He's an RFA. Hertl's a UFA at the end of the year. DeBrusk is 25. Hertl is 28. It seems as though DeBrusk would better fit the Sharks window. Hertl would better fit the Bruins window. But for Jake DeBrusk, it's just... I don't know if it's just... I don't know what it is. There's just... It's always never seemed to be the right fit, though. I don't know if it's the stigma from that 2015 draft, but, you know, he's been okay. 30, 40-point guy, but obviously you want a little bit more than that, but he's bounced around in the middle six. He had 14 points in 41 games last year, which isn't ideal, but again, that's about that 30-point pace, a little bit under. 6 points in 17 games this year, which again isn't great. It just... I'm not surprised, but I am sad. I mean, Jake DeBrusk has scored some big playoff goals for the Bruins. Like, it's just...
What's his contract?
3.3 something.
All right, well, what if it was Evander Kane with 50% retained for Jake DeBrusk?
It evens out just about.
It does.
In terms of the money.
It does. I know... Honestly, weirdly, I know it seems like Evander Kane would be horrible. But how strong is the leadership group in Boston? It seems like it's one of the stronger ones. You'll probably get at least...
I mean, you have Nick Foligno being quoted and saying, like, oh, what have you learned about Patrice Bergeron? Oh, he's perfect. That was his quote about Patrice Bergeron. Nick Foligno, who has been the captain of NHL clubs, saying, oh, yeah, Patrice Bergeron's like the perfect guy.
And honestly, Evander Kane kind of plays a style Boston would like.
Oh, and Evander Kane on ice is a Boston Bruin.
Yes.
He is a Boston Bruin. He right now is what Milan Lucic was in like 2010. In terms of he'll kick the shit out of you, he can score. Evander Kane is a Boston Bruin on ice.
It's the other stuff.
It's everything off the ice.
Here's the thing, though. Remember when he first got traded to San Jose? Those first 2 years were really good.
Mm-hmm.
So if you get those 2 years out of him, then you only have 1 year left on that deal. And at $3.5 million, you can bear it, you can trade it.
Evander Kane's going to be a Boston Bruin, isn't he?
I mean, I kind of... I don't know. I hope someone claims him off waivers, but by this point, he probably already cleared, didn't he?
He's cleared, yeah.
He did. So that was the... Okay, so that was the other thing we were going to talk about a little bit later on, is that, yes, Evander Kane has officially cleared waivers. I couldn't hold off on my reaction to this news until we got to that.
I don't blame you. That's pretty big. I always liked DeBrusk. I feel like he's a good... hard-working guy. He just hasn't been able to put together the offensive touch.
Yeah. So Kane also hired a new agent, Dan Milstein of Golden Star Hockey, who said he's reached out to teams, including the Vancouver Canucks. But the Sharks are willing to retain half of Evander Kane's salary
for 3 more fucking years. But I mean, honestly, is it better than burying him? Like, having him in the AHL, what do they even save? I'm so confused at how that works. I know they have to pay him the same amount, but, like, the cap relief, it's probably not that much.
What, the buyout?
No. Like, of having him in the AHL. I know they have less of a cap hit, right?
It's not a ton. Let me see if Cap Friendly has it. They don't officially have his dead cap number yet.
Yeah, so
yeah, he's still listed under non-roster section. His suspension's not officially up yet, is why.
Honestly.
But for example...
Trade him to Vancouver before they fire Benning.
Right.
The trade is 1-for-1. Evander Kane for Brock Besser. Let's go.
Oh, man. Wow. So Jake DeBrusk officially requesting a trade. Just because someone requests a trade doesn't mean it's going to happen. We had seen that before with the likes of Vladimir Tarasenko. In St. Louis, that didn't happen, but this has been stewing for years and years and years. And if not San Jose, Edmonton is an obvious shout. His dad, Louis, played for the Oilers back in the day. And honestly, I think you could see space for Jake DeBrusk in the Oilers' middle six. I mean, right now, if you look at the Oilers' depth chart, I'm going off of Cap Friendly. This was last updated on Saturday. Draisaitl, McDavid, Cassian, LOL. Hyman, Nugent Hopkins, Yamamoto, Fogle, McLeod, Puljujarvi. If you get Jake DeBrusk to push Zach Cassian down to the fourth line, and then it's Draisaitl, McDavid, let's just say Puljujarvi, Hyman, Nugent Hopkins, Yamamoto, Fogle, McLeod, DeBrusk, the Oilers have no depth scoring trouble. They don't at that point. So I would have to say it's San Jose or Edmonton, but wow, just
that's a crazy development.
Whew. Aside from that, we were about to get into a fun topic, and now I'm completely rattled. Also in that Friday game between the Rangers and the Bruins, Artemi Panarin threw a glove at Brad Marchand from the bench. He was subsequently fined $5,000.
So he basically two-hand slashed him when he was pissed.
Yeah, basically. Brad Marchand was quoted after the game and saying, quote, "We were just talking about what we had for Thanksgiving dinner. He didn't like what I ate," which is the most Brad Marchand response I've ever heard in my life, for sure. And on the flip side of that, Arthur Staple on Twitter mentioned this. According to a source, Marchand made some Russian-centric comments towards Panarin along the lines of "no one likes you there," while bringing up Russian President Vladimir Putin, of whom Panarin has been critical of in the past. I don't believe Artemi Panarin would lie about that. And I will say as a result, yeah, if Brad Marchand brought that up, that is so stupidly uncool, it's not even funny or worth joking about. You know, I'm someone that definitely has that opinion of, hey, guess what? Trash talking and trying to get under your opponent's skin. There is a line to that. Beyond gamesmanship, you can jump and just be a douchebag. Alex Burrows is my primary example of someone who crossed the line and is, in my opinion, a gigantic piece of shit for his comments. Such as, let's see, the Patrick O'Sullivan comment saying, "I'm going to beat you like your father did." Or the, and his name escapes me at the moment. Jordan Tutu. Alex Burrows, if you believe Jordan Tutu and you have no reason not to, made fun of Jordan Tutu's brother who committed suicide. Case in point, you can jump over chirping. And honestly, I think, you look at the situation in Russia and people who are critical of Vladimir Putin, like Artemi Panarin was, and you notice how a lot of other players, whether or not they believe it or not, tend to be on the side of being buddy-buddy with Vladimir Putin because it's in their and their family's best interests. So yeah, my take on that is, if Brad Marchand did in fact joke about that, that's crossing the line, in my opinion. And Panarin throwing the glove at him was fucking hilarious, and I laughed and laughed and laughed. Boys, thoughts?
Endo, you want to go first, or are you still?
I will abstain from the comments surrounding Putin. In general, the whole entire thing that was said was just disgusting. That's not needed in hockey. You can chirp, you can go off, but there's a line, and people need to realize that shit goes too far. Clearly, it went too far. That's why Panarin got mad, and just don't be a dick. That's the moral of anything. Just don't be a dick.
Yeah, I mean,
thank you, Polina.
I think I think it's gonna create a hilarious GIF of just Panarin throwing his glove. But I just, as funny as the situation is, like. Yeah, I mean, there's certain stuff you don't say. It's not really confirmed, I guess, what he said, but it's a source, and I wouldn't necessarily put it past Marchand. It seems
that's the problem. It's believable.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, but I feel like he's been doing a pretty good job of trying to right his own ship. But then again, he also has the other incident coming up to where your mind shifts back to, okay, maybe he is still, that but the piece of shit. But it's. Yeah, I don't know. What really bothers me is just the whole handling of it by the DOPS. Like, and I'm
that won't be the last time we say that.
I know, and it's just like, like what is? I don't know. I just don't understand it. It's like there's not enough punishment being doled out for things that are severe, and that's why we have these situations where it's just like they have to find someone the same, literally the same amount for two different events, which are completely different. And one's way more harsh that doesn't get a fucking suspension, and then later we'll talk about how the other Marchand incident was punished worse than. Well, we'll get to that, and I have a lot more to say about that. But
I can see the GIF right now where it's just like when your in-law asks for extra stuffing, and it's just been there and throwing it at Marchand. Sorry. Okay. Whatever. Comedic relief. Let's go. What's next?
Also on Friday, the Chicago Blackhawks had a nice come-from-behind victory against the St. Louis Blues. Brandon Hagel scored again. He has 7 on the year. Alex DeBrincat's OT winner was the 12th of the year. That pushed the Blues to 10-7-3. Again, not the best record in the world for them, despite Buchnevich's 6th and Barbashev's 5th. The Wild beat the Jets 7-1. The Wild at 13-6-1 as of last Friday. Jets down at 9-7-4. 2-goal game for Zuccarello, his 5th and 6th of the year. Ryan Hartman's 11th. And Kirill Kaprizov with his 6th for the Jets. The only goal. Dubois was his 11th of the year.
It's not doing bad.
So PLD's done pretty well, but rough time there for the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, pretty sure, didn't we mention in the beginning when we were going through everything that Hellebuck's going to have to be good. Was he in that game? I'm pretty sure he was, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. So we were like, for the Jets to succeed, Hellebuck's going to have to be good. 9-7-4. Not exactly where you thought Winnipeg would be with all that talent. Well, again, they're again one of those weird teams that are now kind of being shown how reliant they were on various star players to be stars, and one of those is the goaltender, and that's a tough situation because for a goaltender to be a star year in and year out, a lot has to kind of ride on that, and Winnipeg's defensive core, dare I say, is not very strong.
I still like Schmidt, DeMello, Brendan Dillon, like Josh Morrissey. I think there's still questions about. My biggest issue is their depth scoring in Winnipeg, where I just like. Okay, so here let's do it because I love always looking at team lineups, right? So as of Saturday as well, this was the depth chart here for the Jets. Top line: Connor, Scheifele, Wheeler, pretty good. Although Scheifele 8 points in 15 games, it's okay. Wheeler was 7 and 16, especially when Kyle Connor has 24 points in 21 games. Second line, Andrew Kopp, Pierre-Luc Dubois, Evgeny Svechnikov. Okay, some PLD is solid, Kopp solid. Third line, Stastny, Lowry, Ehlers. I don't know why the fuck Nick Ehlers is on the third line, but okay. And then their fourth line, Janssen Harkins, Dominic Toninato, Christian Vesalainen, who have a combined 7 points between them this season.
I know Vesalainen because EA always says he's an elite, but...
Right. And that's not a good sign when EA is like, yep, here we go.
Yeah, that's... Yeah, I guess their defensive core isn't their biggest issue. The thing about that for me is that they got like Dillon and DeMello, while solid, they're probably playing... Well, DeMello especially probably playing a bit more than he should. Although I do really like him, and he probably could.
Analytics darling, Dylan DeMello.
Yeah, he really is, and that's why I really like him. I was sad that the Sharks got rid of him. More sad in the
years ago
aftermath. Yeah, for Carlson.
Yeah. God, yeah.
Right.
There you go. We'll keep moving on. Also on Friday, the Canes beat the Flyers. No, that's I believe the third time I've said the Flyers have lost already in this episode. It was a 6-3 win for the Canes. All the big guns scoring for the most. Well, I mean, Jesper Foss might as well be a big gun. 6 goals on the year. Aho his 9th and 10th. Another rough loss for the Flyers. We'll get to that in a little bit. The Ducks beat the Sens 4-0. Pushes Ottawa to 4-13-1 as of Friday night. It was an Anthony Stolarz shutout.
Jeez.
It wasn't even John Gibson. It was Anthony Stolarz. Troy Terry also scored his 13th of the year in that game. Again, for the love of God, if he's not wearing one of those horrific Team USA jerseys this February, I'm going to be pissed. But let's be honest, I'm starting to doubt whether or not the Olympics are actually going to be a thing, especially the NHL's involvement, because of some of the things that have been happening. The Capitals beat the Panthers 4-3. I believe it was the Panthers' first loss on home ice. I think they were 11-0 prior to that game. Wilson scored his 8th, but Ovechkin 16, 17, 18 for Ovi. At 36 years old and 70 days, he became the oldest player in the history of the Capitals to score a hat trick. The previous record holder there was Peter Bondra, who was 35 years old, 295 days. Shout out to Peter Bondra.
Wasn't he Russian
Don't hear
too?
that name enough.
Sounds
I
sort
think
of.
he was Czech.
Probably Czech.
I think
Some sort of Slav. It's
Peter
okay.
Bondra was Slovakian.
There you go.
I knew it
See?
was one of the
Slav.
two.
Yeah.
Slav is for men.
He was squatting and he was in a Adidas tracksuit.
Rybalowski.
The way to do it.
And that's
For
literally
the
that.
Panthers in that game,
That's
some
the
bright
yeah.
spots. Huberdeau, Verhaeghe each their seventh because, of course, Carter Verhaeghe is sick. Preds beat the Devils 4-2. Roman Josi seventh. And Phil Tomasino with his fourth. We kind of have it set up that it's Sider, Raymond, and the other guy. I still think Tomasino could be the other guy in the Calder voting by the end of the year. And Andreas Janssen scored his seventh. Just to mention names of Leafs past with Andreas Janssen. Oh my God, this scoreline. The Sabres beat the Habs 4-1. This pushed Montreal to 5-15-2.
Yeah.
5-15-2.
Reminder: Stanley Cup finalists, Montreal Canadiens. God.
Tage Thompson scored his 9th and 10th of the year. He has been incredible
Holy shit.
this season. Yeah, Tage Thompson has 10 goals this year. Turns out the O'Reilly trade, there's still a chance it could work out
Cool.
for Buffalo.
Okposo is
Oh my
6 too.
God.
That's actually kind of
Jeez.
Yeah, dude, if Kyle Okposo can stay healthy like he has, he's still a solid NHLer.
Yeah.
But man, did it look like his career was just done because of the injuries. So that could be a good feel-good story of the year is if Kyle Okposo can stay healthy and keep putting up decent numbers. The Tampa Bay Lightning also on Friday beat the Seattle Kraken 3-0. Andrei Vasilevsky with the shutout. Steven Stamkos, his 11th goal of the year. It was Vasi's 200th career win in 318 games. That was the second fewest amount of games to get to 200 wins in history. Only Ken Dryden did it faster.
It's pretty nuts.
I think it was 217 games it took Vasi. It took Braden Holtby 218. So, in case you forgot how good Braden Holtby was when he first debuted, and that's because he absolutely spanked the Bruins every fucking time they played, and I hate it. I hate it then. I hate it now. I'll always hate it. God damn it. But yeah, I mean, we don't have to sit here and wax poetic about Andrei Vasilevsky. In the next episode, when we talk about, who our Vezina favorites might be, I'm sure he'll be up there.
Yeah.
I'm sure he will be. And again, to round out Friday, the Jackets beat the Canucks 4-2. We'll talk about you in a minute, Vancouver. The Stars beat the Avalanche 3-1, featuring a 2-goal performance from Joe Pavelski. 5th and 6th of the year, he became the 10th U.S.-born player to score 400 career goals in the NHL, which is just awesome.
Yeah.
The other names that are still ahead of him at this point, if I am not mistaken, when it comes to Joe Pavelski, and it's great company he's in, John LeClaire, Patrick Kane, Tony Amani, Bill Guerin, Pat LaFontaine, Joe Mullen, Jeremy Roenick, Keith Tkachuk, and of course Mike Modano. Depends on what you want to consider Brett Hull, but he wasn't U.S. born. That's what this list was for. So, at the end of the day, Joe Pavelski, Captain America. Give him the C in the Olympics if they happen, which they won't, but we'll see. God, 2 other games. There were a shitload of games on Friday after Thanksgiving. The Penguins beat the Islanders 1-0. Another Tristan Jarry shutout. Kasperi Kapanen's 5th of the year. For the Islanders, their 8th loss in a row. Outscored 32-7 over those 8 games. They are 2-8-0 in their last 10 with a record of 5-10-2. Holy shit. You want to talk about another team where it's like, how are you this bad, injuries or not? Like, if there was a team to be decimated by injuries, and obviously they have other things going on right now, we'll talk about that towards the end of the show. Injuries or not, you would think that one of the teams that could withstand it would be the Islanders because of their goaltending, and their coaching.
Yeah.
That has not happened. bottom line is they are really struggling to put up points. Looking at their depth chart here, Zach Parise, 3 points in 17 games. That signing hasn't exactly worked out now, has it? Anthony Beauvillier and Kyle Palmieri, both 7 points on the year. Pajot with just 4. Oof. Wahlstrom has 5.
Oof.
Matt Barzal, 8 points in 17 games.
What?
8.
Holy, dude. Isles are fucked.
And I mentioned the goaltending. Ilya Sorokin has a .928 in 13 games.
Mm-hmm.
It's damn good.
Yeah.
Semyon Varlamov, who you could argue should have been up there in Vezina conversation.
Last season.
Maybe the third guy in the mix last year. 5 games played, an .881 save percentage. He's 0-4 on the year, record-wise.
My favorite name, 0-4.
Everything with this team right now just seems to be broken. And screw it. We'll jump ahead because it makes sense. The last thing we were going to mention on today's show was that Sunday night, the Rangers-Islanders game was postponed. The Islanders won't play again until December, which obviously it's the 29th is the day that we record this. But massive, massive COVID issues. Another outbreak. It's the second outbreak we've seen. Chara, Cizikas, Johnston, Lee, Bellows, Pellet, Green. I think Josh Bailey, he was also listed in the non-roster section. This is the second major COVID outbreak that we've seen with an NHL team this season, following the Ottawa Senators. And the reason why I mentioned if the Olympics
one was 2. I mean, 7 guys.
Oh God, you're right. Yes, that's a third.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've had enough that it's easy to forget one. That's nice. That's not scary.
Yeah, you shouldn't be playing. You should have your games rescheduled. God.
And that seemed to be the sentiment from Islanders fans, where it's like, what the fuck is the matter with the NHL? Like, they could have postponed sooner and maybe stopped this, but they kind of let it go and allowed them to get murdered with like half a roster. So, yeah, now they give them 4 days. 4 days off to try and get healthy. So
I think it's crazy. I think it's ridiculous.
I think it's the NHL desperately trying to go like, oh God, because again, and this is why I mentioned the Olympics, if they miss enough time due to COVID, they will not go to the Olympics.
Yep.
They said that at the beginning of the year. If they get to, it's essentially a snow day side of things, where if you hit your limit too goddamn bad, you're going, it's just, you got to make up that time.
Yep.
And if more COVID outbreaks keep happening and more game time is missed, it is in the schedule to not go to the Olympics and use that time to make up games that were missed. And there is a very good chance that could happen. That is why when a lot of people ask us, like, hey, can you guys do your Olympic roster predictions?
You can't.
Let's not count our chickens before they hatch here. I don't feel confident talking about what might happen at the Olympics in terms of hockey, at least until February, and until we know for sure that they're going.
Yeah.
Because it's not a guarantee at all.
God, that'd be scary too. Imagine having to build like an AHL Olympic team for like the US and Canada.
I mean, they did it last year.
Yeah, they did it last time, but just like having to do it again. And then I wonder, like, we'll talk about it later, definitely on a different episode. But will Canada bring mostly like rookies and stuff like that, like young guys out there to get that experience? And yeah, it's just a whole different whole different thing you have to look forward to. Definitely.
So it's one of those things. So it's like, right, like you look at the Olympics in 2018. Obviously, the Olympic athletes from Russia won the gold.
Yep.
Because they had frickin' Datsuk, Kaprizov, Kovalchuk. Germany finished in second with like an ancient Christian Ehrhoff on their team.
Oh, yeah.
And then Canada won bronze. You want me to read off some of the names from the Canadian Olympic roster 4 years ago?
Yes, please.
Go for it.
Rene Bourque. That's where we start. Is Gilbert Brule. Andrew Ebbett. Che Genoway.
There's some crazy names.
Cody Golubov. Quentin Howden. Rob Klinkhammer. Chris Kelly, who had retired and then unretired for these. Chris Lee. Justin Peters. Mason Raymond. Derek Roy. Ben Scrivens. Wojciech Wolski.
Hey!
Lyndon Vey.
I forgot about Wolski.
Like
everyone unretired to play for Team Canada again. It's like the Spengler. It was like the Spengler Cup roster, where it's like everyone who couldn't be the top guys were there. It was ridiculous.
There were names like Rob Klinkhammer, Brandon Cozen, Max Lapierre, like just, oh my God. And there is a good chance that is exactly what we'll see again. I didn't mention the U.S. roster, but I can.
Yeah, please. I want to just see if I recognize any name.
Okay. Goaltenders, Ryan Zapolsky.
Nope.
Brandon Maxwell and David Leggio.
Legio. Legend.
Leggio, Mr. Push the net over on a penalty shot.
Short,
for a breakaway.
Is it Short King, David Leggio? I think he's short, right?
Yeah, he's 6 foot. At forward, former San Jose Sharks forward John McCarthy.
Let's go. Oh, wow. That was
Brian O'Neill.
That was before he was forced into retirement because of blood clots or something.
Yeah.
Something like that, yeah. Garrett Rowe, Captain Brian Gianna, Brock Little, Bobby Butler, Ryan Donato, Chris Bork, Jordan Greenway, Jim Slater, a young Troy Terry, Mark Arcabello, Chad Kolarik, Ryan Stoa. The defense, Chad Billings, Noah Welch, Ryan Gunderson, Will Borgen, James Wisniewski, who was broken at the time, Bobby Sanguinetti, John Blum, and Matt Gilroy.
What the hell?
Bobby Sanguinetti.
There is a chance that could happen again if the NHL has to bail out, by the way.
Just call those guys up again for one more once.
Holy shit.
God,
might as well bring Brian Rafalski.
So wait, where were the last Olympics in? I can't remember.
2018.
No, where were they? China?
Wasn't it China or South Korea?
China.
It was South Korea because it's in China now.
Right. I remember like the South Korean team was like all Canadians. It was something ridiculous. And everyone's like, they're all Canadians. I'm like, no, it's kind of like what China's having right now, where they basically got a bunch of Canadians right now who have like citizenship with China, like through like their parents or whatever, and brought them over to like play with Kunlun. It's nuts. So
yeah,
Kunlun is
so
they asked
Canadians
John Scott to play on their team.
Yeah, John fucking Scott.
Yeah, China said, "Hey, come play in China, and we'll give you citizenship so you could be."
Scott San.
That'd be awesome as hell. To Endo's point, Canadians on that South Korean team, defenseman Alex Plant, goaltender Matt Dalton, defenseman Brian Young, forward Brock Radunsky, forward Michael Swift. They also had Eric Reagan on defense and an American, Mike Testuidi. So
yeah, like right now the current situation right now in China is that 3 years ago they brought over a whole bunch of talent to go play for Kunlun, the KHL team, which is based in China, which is based in Kunlun, but that's actually being played out in the suburb of Moscow, which is absolutely ridiculous. Like the whole thing is like because no one goes to their games, so they just play over there. They're like the worst team. And the big issue right now with China is like they might not even like pull them out, even though they're the host country. They have a team, but it's gonna be so embarrassing for them as like a developing team because they're like Div 3 in like IIHF, and their pools with like Canada, US, like Switzerland, like top teams are like gonna completely dominate them, and they're like we can't have this happen. And like their way of getting around it, of boosting up their team and developing their like squad, was let's get a bunch of people in and get them to qualify over as like, oh, you've been in the country long enough, so IIHF says, oh, you can technically play under. So they have a bunch of like, but it's literally just all Canadians on their team, and I believe there are a few KHL games they have to play where they're basically showing their roster for like Chinese-born players, and it's like bad. It's very, very bad. Oh man, poor China. I mean, and again, it's hard to grow a sport in China like that.
To round out Friday, after of course we talked about the Islanders, somehow we remember when we were talking about the Islanders.
Oh my god,
how did we get there? I guess the COVID cancellations. The final game on Friday, the Leafs beat the Sharks 4-1. Joseph Wall gets another win. Nylander's 8th, Matthews 9th, Tavares 10th of the year. Bonino did score, is second in as many games, though. Boys, any recollections from that game on Friday?
Sin, you want to start?
Yeah, it sucked. But I mean, that's what happens when you have one shot on 3 fucking power plays against the Leafs. You morons, shoot the puck. Yeah, it was kind of a frustrating game. The Leafs played well enough to win. I wouldn't say they dominated by any means, but like the Sharks they weren't very good, and Wall was good, and they didn't test him enough, especially when they did have a man advantage. You have to make Toronto pay for taking penalties, and they didn't.
Yeah, Joseph Wall looks good. He looks. We made the jokes about being like a solid wall and brick wall, but he looks. He doesn't look like a rookie. If that makes any sense, he isn't making the mistakes that a rookie would typically make. Comparison to Stuart Skinner with the Oilers, or making some certain plays and having the jitters. He seems very relaxed and composed, and I think that's with being in the system with the Marlies for so long. He just doesn't really seem like he's like that phased. You know how Binnington says, "Oh, he's never nervous," but like meanwhile he's like the most jittery motherfucker in the fucking crease in the NHL right now, with swinging stick at people like he's fucking Freddy Krueger. But he just doesn't look nervous. He doesn't look afraid to go out there and play every night. He knows that every night he goes out there, he's gonna get the win.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
We'll move on to Saturday night now. Kicking things off, the Seattle Kraken beat the Florida Panthers 4-1. Chris Driedger gets the win in his return to Florida. Jordan Eberle with a 2-goal game, up to 10-11 on the season there. The Kraken are 3-7-0 in their last 10, but in that time, they have beaten the Capitals, Hurricanes, and Panthers, the top 3 teams in the NHL.
They're an enigma.
Yeah. It's
just hockey. Sports, like it's so weird. It's completely nonsensical. Yeah. But end of the day, the Panthers are still 14-4-3. They're a juggernaut. Any concern about them really slowing down once Quenneville was allowed to step aside, it's kind of dissipated at this point. And the Kraken at 7-13-1 playoffs seem unlikely. But hey, at the very least, they've shown they can be a bit of a spoiler in terms of giving teams a tough time. I think that's really all you can ask for with how that roster was built. Poorly. The Edmonton Oilers beat the Golden Knights 3-2. Goals from Nugent Hopkins, Hyman, and Pool Party. Yesy Puljujärvi. Highlight of this game, Chris Russell became the NHL's all-time leader in block shots, surpassing Brent Seabrook.
Jeez.
What?
Chris Russell.
Huh. I would have never thought.
Russell, your Jimmy's
was the best at anything.
It's so insulting.
Right.
I'm sorry, but like, it's Chris Russell. Like,
yeah,
he turned out to be such an anchor when he was supposed to be pretty solid. But hey, he blocks shots, or at least he's in the way of them.
He's still good. Yeah, he's still good defensively. It's 890 career games.
Wow.
2,003 blocks.
Dude.
Yeah.
All right. Note to self.
Dude, there was a time.
Grab Chris Russell in fantasy.
So 2013 to 2018.
Yeah, he had some good years in there.
2013 to 2018, the fewest amount of blocks he finished with in a season was 201.
Wow. That is.
He also missed time. He never played a full season in that time. I wonder why.
That's 2.5 blocks per game, man. That's actually impressive. Yep. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So Chris Russell, ladies and gentlemen, put some respect on his name. God, yeah. For the Golden Knights, like Stevenson and Riley Smith both scored, but Vegas at 12-9-0 at that point. Edmonton 15-5-0. I think we have another Vegas game to talk about coming up though in a few minutes. Anyway, but then we get to what I thought was going to be the biggest game in terms of discussion, and then Montreal did stuff, and then the DOPS did stuff. The LA Kings and the Ottawa Senators on Saturday. The Kings beat them 4-2. Arvidsson scored his 4th of the year. Kaliev scored his 4th of the year. Someone else who might be up there for that third rookie. And Carl Grundstrom, 4th and 5th. So another former Leaf there. For the Sens, another former Leaf, Connor Brown, got his 4th of the year. Ottawa, 1-9-0 in their last 10, 5 straight losses. They are 4-14-1.
Remember when the GM said the rebuild was about over?
Oh my God.
Oh my God is right. So, not only is that situation incredibly bad, it's not helped by the fact that they signed Matt Murray to the deal that they signed him to.
I feel bad for him.
And that is the main topic of discussion here. Matt Murray was sent down. He did clear waivers. And I completely agree. Like, I'm not looking at this in like a humorous way to be like, oh, he got a 4-year deal where it's $625 a season. He sucks. Like, I mean, bottom line is there was a stat that was out there. If he never plays another game for the Senators, 4 years, $25 million. He ended up playing 33 games, an .892 save percentage, and a goal saved above expected of negative 19.32.
Yeesh.
Bro.
That is...
Bro.
It's an incredible fall from grace, guys. Yeah. And I do think it's incredibly sad.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it could be a case of just he had his incredible moments at the Preds and Sharks' expense. He had his incredible moments, and then once 1920 hit, he hasn't been the same.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, during that season or before it was when his father passed away. And that always seems to be the main thing that's brought up, unfortunately, is a combination of injuries, primarily concussion issues, and then on top of the death of his father. And like I said, I don't view this as a situation or a time to be like, yeah, let's all dunk on Matt Murray. He sucks. Like, that's not this. It's like this is the guy who's 27 years old. He shouldn't be falling off this hard. It's got to be something more or a combination of numerous different things. And it just makes you wonder what the next step is. I mean, in terms of the only team I even viewed as a possibility that would claim him is Buffalo. Arizona with Wedgwood and Vejmelka, they don't really have a reason.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to get somebody better who has the potential to be better than Wedgwood because you're tanking. It seems like they're likely going to have to buy this deal out or just hope that time in the AHL can help him figure things out. But it's a sad story, and I really do hope that he bounces back, because if you want to look in the future at the idea of a buyout, if they were to buy him out next year, it would cost them $175 against the cap.
Is he already played 1 full year, right? Or did his 4-year deal kick in this year? Okay, so it'll be 2 years.
Yeah, so he's 1 year in.
Okay.
So, I mean, he's got 3 years left, 2 after this one.
Yeah, so if they buy him out, it's only a 2-year buyout. They buy out. Well, yeah, they buy out the 2 years is what I mean.
They buy out 2 years, yes. So it would be $175, then $750K, and then $2.5 million for 2 years after.
That's the worst setup.
You could argue whether or not that's worth it or not, especially for an organization that doesn't like to spend money.
If the 2.5 was in the first 2 years, I'd say 100% do it. But the 2.5 is coming in the 2 years where they're going to have a lot of those younger guys beginning to be extended, and that's the time where they're really going to want to start making playoff pushes. That's rough, but if he doesn't get better, might be what you have to do.
I'm looking at his contract right now and everything. I think he got way overpaid, personally.
I mean, I think everyone thought that at the time, right?
And he definitely got overpaid. I mean, there's obviously something that's affecting him, and I hope he gets that fixed and sorted out. But at the same time, I always saw that deal was so that way the Senators could hit the cap room floor, because they had literally nobody and nothing there to him. If they could have,
and he still counts for over $5 million against the cap, even though he's buried in the minors.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly, I think next year, I don't know. I would honestly wait 1 more year. Wait till he has 1 more year before you buy him out. Because that way, do you know do you have the buyout calculator with you? Could you see how much that would be if they bought out only the last year of his deal?
Let me see if I am allowed to look at that. I don't know if cap friendly. Well, no, buyout date. Okay, so if it's
the year after.
Yeah, while you do that, just
the instead. Well, I already have it here.
Oh,
if it's 2023, if they buy him out after next year, it would be a 2-year hit, $916K, and then $2.6 million.
Right.
So you really can't escape a $2.5 to $2.6 million
that's
hit,
unfortunate.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Yeah. The one thing I was going to say too is I'm surprised they sent him down or put him through waivers. I'm surprised they didn't do something kind of like what Toronto did with Jonathan Bernier when he was here, when they sent him down for conditioning stint and have him play out that way and bring him back up.
Well,
like, are they fully like going to the whole embracing of being like, yeah, you know what, we're just gonna get rid of him kind of thing? Because they did that
There's
with
got to be
Bernier.
something related to the cap there that I'm
prevents
just
them
not
from doing
entirely sure of as to why they might have done it this way.
It's weird.
The other big part of this Sens Kings situation was Brendan Lemieux biting Brady Tkachuk during a fight twice. I don't believe we have heard what the suspension will be for him yet. Yet we already know the Brad Marchand suspension, so fucking figure that one out. This one happened 2 days before. But it was an in-person hearing for Lemieux, which means, I believe, a 6-game minimum. Obviously, in the aftermath of this, there were a bunch of stories that came out from people regarding Brendan Lemieux and his character. And then you also had
I didn't see any of
the
those.
comments. You also have the comment directly from Brady Tkachuk himself.
This was the best fucking rant
Oh
I've
my
seen from
God,
an NHL
yes.
player. More of this, please. Seriously. Like,
And I quote, "This is the one time I'm going to answer this. It was the most gutless thing somebody could ever do. This guy, you can ask any one of his teammates, nobody wants to play with them. This guy is a bad guy and a bad teammate. He focuses on himself all the time. The guy's just a joke. He shouldn't be in the league. This guy's gutless. No other team wants him. He's going to keep begging to be in the NHL, but no other team is going to want him. He's an absolute joke. I can't even wrap my head around it. People don't even do this. He's just a bad guy. It's outrageous. Kids don't even do that anymore. Babies do that. I don't even know what he was thinking. He's just a complete brickhead. He's got nothing up there. Bad guy, bad player, but what a joke he is."
You know what's the best part about that? When someone used Cameo to get Gilbert Gottfried read that word for word.
What? I didn't even see that.
You didn't hear about that?
How the fuck am I missing all this stuff?
And the way he says Kachuk
You're a family,
is
buddy.
Chuck. He just goes off. It's the best.
Have you seen
What
him
a
reading 50
brickhead.
Shades of Grey?
Yes.
good.
Oh my God.
Oh man, so beautiful.
I mean, where's the lie, though?
There's no lie, and you know what? It makes a lot of sense that all that, like, he's not good, which is why he might actually one day be out of the league. But remember, he had a podcast with the Canes legend now,
Defenseman.
Tony D'Angelo, and
Stormy the
who,
capital.
by the way, North Carolina, you should be fucking ashamed. All I want for Christmas is a Tony D'Angelo extension. Oh, be careful what you wish for. Because the second he gets that money and gets his fucking ego back inflated, you can forget about him being a good boy. I guarantee you.
Stormy the capital. That's what I'm calling him. That's good.
So, I love Kachuk's response. For Brendan Lemieux, he's having an okay season. He's got 5 points in 14 games, four of them goals. Of the points there. He's played well recently. I just don't know if there was prior. I think there might have been like a prior incident, like a prospect game or something that somebody pointed out. I don't know if Tkachuk just got under his skin, but
He does have a
Lemieux
punchable
certainly got
fucking
into
face.
his.
Their dads go way back.
If I had to
though.
punch one of the Kachucks, like for some reason, I would punch Brady. Even though he seems like the cooler of the two, I would just punch him because of his face.
Yeah.
But it's still not. All jokes aside, I love all those comments from Brady, and now it's like I remember being like, why would they give him the C after everything that went down, after the whole contract holdout? I'm all on board. That man is your fucking captain because that's incredible. Like he let his personality fly. He stuck up for himself. He just absolutely railed on a guy who. And what I like the most about it is because he said, "Yo, I'm only going to say this once." It's restraint in the face of venting, and I like that. I think hockey needs more people to vent, but also exercise restraint. Being like, "Yo, you want this? Here's it one time. I'm not going to give you guys soundbite after soundbite after soundbite. I'm going to say this once," and I like that. I think that was really, really awesome of Brady. And yeah, Brendan Lemieux's a piece of shit, and good for you, Brady.
I think you summed it up perfectly. Also, on Saturday, the Detroit Red Wings beat the Buffalo Sabres 3-2. Lucas Raymond, his 9th of the year. Shout out to Dylan Cousins, though, for the Sabres with his 5th. He's done pretty well. And Jeff Skinner has 6 on the year, but the Sabres are 3-6-1 in their last 10. And I think any of the hope and optimism that they had through the first 5 to 8 games of the season has officially been extinguished.
Yeah, I was going to mention that earlier. Remember when the Sabres were 4-0?
I think Sabres fans are used to this happening.
I know, and I literally said that at the beginning. Everyone's like, "Oh my god, the Sabres, are they really?" I'm like, guys, dude, they do this every year. How are you guys still fooled by this?
I think that's why you never saw the arena fill up any more than what it did. Yeah. People are just like, yeah, we know what's coming. You're not suckering us in. Get the hell out of here. It's amazing. And then, because there aren't enough big talking points, the Montreal Canadiens beat the Pittsburgh Penguins 6-3 on Saturday. And boy, don't we have stuff to talk about with both of them. The Habs are who we'll start off with. They are 3-5-2 in their last 10. As of this win, a 16-15 record on the season. Easy for me to say. A lot of numbers. This game, 2-goal performance for Josh Anderson. A lot of their bigger names showed up. They beat the Penguins. That's all well and good. And then Marc Bergevin was fired.
When's the last time a GM was fired after a win?
Congrats.
It probably happens more recently than you think, but just the concept of it doesn't seem to really gel. I don't even know where to start with just the sentence. Marc Bergevin was fired. We are less than half a year removed from them appearing in the Stanley Cup Final.
Yeah.
And he was fired before December. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. And it makes me think that they would have done this sooner had they not made the Stanley Cup Final. Habs don't make the playoffs last year. They're gone. Mm-hmm. He's gone. He's fired. So it's almost like you brought him back just to be like, okay, well, we'll give you a little bit more time. And that to me doesn't really speak to a direction that they have. It really does speak to you gave him a bit of extra time because the team figured it out for a little bit.
Yeah.
And look what happened in the offseason to the Habs. Dano gone. Oh, just... I know some of the stuff they can't control, Weber, Carey Price, etc., but...
So that's why you would think, though, if he was a part... If they never planned on getting rid of him, he would have stayed. He would have had to have stayed. I mean, why would... you factor in, like you mentioned, okay, Danault's gone, Price is out, Weber's out, all the injuries that have happened. If it was the plan to keep him, he wouldn't be gone right now.
Yeah.
But it almost screams to me that, again, he was gone had they not made the playoffs last year. Because they were so quick to pull the trigger here. And, you look at Marc Bergevin's history, and I think he leaves behind a rather interesting legacy with the Habs because, I've been critical of him in a lot of ways because I still stand by the fact, like, you look at that team that got to the conference final against the New York Rangers in 2014. If Carey Price doesn't go down to injury, there's a good chance the Habs are playing the Kings in the Cup final. And who the hell knows what happens when it's Jonathan Quick against Carey Price. I mean, we saw Jonathan Quick versus Lundqvist, and that was great as well. But you look at that core, and I still say if you maneuvered the pieces around the right way, that the Habs would have won a cup with the likes of Pacioretty leading that team. But I just don't think they made the right moves at the right time. And yes, he rebounded well in the acquisition of Nick Suzuki and company. But at the end of the day, I don't know what his legacy in Montreal is. Like, he was the GM of this team since 2012-13. And in that time, some ups, a lot of downs. I don't really know. It seemed to be among the Habs fan base, partial celebration, but also a lot of people who were concerned. I just don't know what to make of Marc Bergevin and his time with the Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah, I like. They were very. It was odd. Like wasn't he the one that quoted as like, yeah, we're not rebuilding, but then they were doing like rebuilding stuff constantly, but not. Yeah. It was weird. It was. Yeah, I don't know. I don't feel like he was great as a GM. I feel like he got lucky by going to that cup final, and like you said, like it seems like the team kept around. Okay, well, maybe we can keep you because you did just make it to the cup. But like, in my opinion, that had nothing to do with the GM. I think they won in spite of him. And I think they got to that cup in spite of him, and they caught lightning in a bottle. And it may be the politics of it. You can't fire the GM after that when it comes down to it, but we'll get to it more. There's the politics of Montreal, the organization, fucking suck. Oh, we can't fire him now. You just got to the cup. Okay, well, he's fired now. We gotta have a French speaker, so we're gonna. Oh my god!
We'll get to that here in a second.
I'll yell about that. Holy fuck!
I did want to say in relation to like that cup-winning team. Like to my point, you look at that era of the Canadiens and what happened after that 2014 run, and it's like, oh, we're not going to keep Alex Radulov, we're not going to keep Andrei Markov, and it's just weird decisions at weird times. Replacing Bergevin is next on the agenda. We do know that Jeff Gorton is stepping in as the executive vice president of the team. Of course, he was previously the general manager of the New York Rangers, was released within the past year, of course, in the aftermath of the absurdity that surrounded the Rangers at the end of last season. And Jeff Gorton, you always want to say Jeff Gorton. Jeff Gorton is stepping into a role he's never had before. But I look at this guy as someone where if I had to pick someone like a GM or an executive vice president role to oversee the foundation, and the building of a contender, he might be at the top of my list. Mm-hmm. Like, he was with the Boston Bruins from 1994 to 2007. So he was a director of scouting, the assistant general manager. He was then the interim general manager when they drafted some guys by the name of Brad Marchand and Milan Lucic, I believe right around that era. He then goes to the Rangers as a scout, then director of player personnel, and then the AGM, and then the GM. And boy, he knows how to build good teams.
Yeah.
I think the Rangers did make a mistake letting him go, even though they're having success this season. And I think this is a phenomenal hire for the Habs. I think this is a really great signing for them to have him kind of lead the way. But as Sid mentioned, he's not the GM. We don't know who the GM is yet.
I think he is, though.
Well, that's what a lot of people are saying, is he the GM, but not. Kind of like Brian Burke being above Ron Hextall in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Is it that situation, like the optics of it?
And they're going to have
we thought the GM
a puppet to speak French to people.
Yeah, that's basically what it's going to be.
We thought the GM of the club was going to be former NHLer Scott Mellanby, who, according to him, was promised to be the next GM of the Habs, until ownership changed their mind. I wonder if Scott speaks French. I have a feeling he doesn't.
Yep.
The emphasis is flat out apparently on finding somebody, and there was a press conference today from the Molson family, and essentially reiterating the point of the importance of a French-speaking GM. Which is, to me, the biggest problem with the Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah.
I grew up knowing the Habs language to be winning. What was the Habs language as an organization? Championships. Oh, do you speak English? Do you speak French? Look at this cup ring. That was their language. That is how they did their talking. Yet in my lifetime, and this emphasis might have been there before, there now seems to be more of that emphasis on, we have to be able to appeal to both sides. There is not a Habs fan with more than one brain cell pinging around in their skull that would have been upset had the Habs beat the Tampa Bay Lightning this past summer because, the GM doesn't speak French. There is not a person in that fucking province that would have said, yeah, but this cup win would be so much sweeter if the GM could tell me congratulations in French as well as English. That's not real. That's not a thing. I am perfectly okay as a fan of the Boston Bruins to see the Montreal Canadiens organization continue to put these limiting parameters on themselves that are continuing to hold the organization back. I'm perfectly fine with that. I revel in it. I think it's great. It's hilarious. You're fucking stupid. What are you doing? You are the Montreal Canadiens. I am 27 years old, and you haven't won in my entire lifetime, despite being the winningest organization of all time? That's fucking awesome. Keep fucking up, you dumb fucks. What are you doing? I literally, I don't have any other words for this aside from, holy shit, how dumb can you be?
Well, when you only have to beat 5 other teams every year, you can probably say, all right, everyone needs to speak French and half of our roster has to be Quebecois. But at this point, stop. Like, we're in an era of globalization. And to be... you're not in this weird bubble. And I don't know, like, it seems like Quebec are like the most isolationist motherfuckers on the planet, where like they need their little bubble, they need like it to be this certain way, and they're still pretending that like it's the fucking 50s or something. I don't know what's up with it, but it's like they want their own little private French residence, and it's just not like that. Like hockey is more of a global sport. It's not even any longer even a big French Canadian thing. I feel like the French Canadians, and it's evidenced by their goddamn prime minister, whoever the hell is there, premier. Okay, yeah, whatever. Like, oh, we need more Quebecois playing. There's been a decrease in numbers. It's like, you know what? There's more competition. There's simply more players from more places because hockey's taking over on a more global scale. So you're not going to see as much Quebecois. You're not going to have as much French speakers. Deal with it. Evolve, adapt or die, man. Fuck.
Imagine how good the Oilers would be if they didn't have that scrub, German Leon Draisaitl, and they had some dude named fucking... I can't even think of the most stereotypical name.
Boudouin, or whatever the fuck.
Well, no, I'm thinking of the Oilers.
Canadian kids here, okay? We need good Canadian kids, no Germans. The Europeans celebrate, boy.
We need Brandon Wheat King. Brandon Wheat, or fucking Wheaton King, whatever the fuck his name was, on the Brandon Wheat Kings. We need him on the Oilers to lead the way. Otherwise, it's just not a title. Like nobody else does this.
Casually named a guy after a WHL team.
Quit trying, motherfuckers. I guess the only reason to do this is so that they can win a title and be like, hey, we won the NHL on hard mode because we limited ourselves like a draft of glory.
You know what it is? This all started because of last year when they played one single fucking game. One game without a Quebecois-born player on their roster. And it's absolutely ridiculous that a franchise in the National Hockey League is freaking out over not having enough Quebecois players. You know what you need to do? You need to work on developing your players instead of bitching about not being able to have any on your team. Maybe they're not as good as you think they are. Maybe they're off on other teams because they're their star players. Fucking cope. It's ridiculous. And Quebec itself, just to touch on Quebec itself, it's very separatist. It still is separatist. Like hell,
they tried to secede from Canada back in the day.
They're still trying to do it right now. If I believe right now, the current leader of Quebec is all for
the currency.
Yeah, they still want to keep the currency. It's like what?
I'll go to
invent your own fucking shekels. Jesus Christ, leave me alone. Cry.
It's like a kid moving out of the house, but I still would like to get money. Fuck off, you.
Give me my allowance, but let me leave. God, I'm gonna live in a shoebox, but still make sure to give me my fucking my Lunchables. Like what do you like? It's ridiculous. They need to just get with the times. The future is now, old man. Do something other besides the shit that you're doing right now. Also, and for the future GM who doesn't know how to speak French, félicitations. That is how you say congratulations. There you fucking go. Now go win a fucking Stanley Cup, you Anglophone.
It just doesn't make sense to me, and it doesn't make sense to any of us as to why there is. I don't care about you have to live here to understand. No, you don't. You don't.
It's ridiculous. It's really hard. I've had people who live in Quebec and live in mostly Montreal. Everything's all in French. It's the minute you cross that border to go into Quebec City or Quebec, not even Quebec City, just everything changes. Everything's all French this, French that. People will get mad at you if you speak English. It's quoi? Qu'est-ce que tu fais? What do you want from me? What? Come on.
I just don't understand the idea of I don't understand what my GM is saying. So it's not good enough. Like in the internet age we live in, where subtitles are an easy thing and people translate shit on Twitter if you really care that much. Like if the GM of the Boston Bruins speaks fucking Portuguese, do you think I'm gonna give a fuck if they win a Stanley Cup? Motherfucker, I'll get a tattoo of Ronaldo on my chest.
That's the one thing too that I said on Twitter, because that's a fucking cesspool and everything as well. Just with the technology that we have nowadays, there is not a single factor that should be against them being able to hire someone for any reason whatsoever. I've had coaches, I've had players, I've had people who don't speak fucking English or French. They still speak their home language where they came from when they came off of the flight with the Prince looking for a better life here in Canada. It is absolutely ridiculous that these entitled pricks, I'm gonna say it flat out, entitled pricks think that I'm bilingual and it's great. It helps me get a job better. It's great, but at the same time, forcing someone to have to speak a certain language in order to make them like eligible for a job is absolutely ridiculous. There's fucking Duolingo. There is like Google Translate, which is a pretty goddamn good job at telling you what it is. There are resources. They're $1 billion organization looking for trying to spend money for a hockey team. You can spend what, $100,000 for a fucking translator? Shut up.
On the other side of this, for the Pittsburgh Penguins, they have a new owner. Fenway Sports Group, owners of the Boston Red Sox, owner of Liverpool FC, announced that they have acquired a controlling interest in the Pittsburgh Penguins, as was rumored. The deal is subject to approval by the Board of Governors, which is expected to close before the end of the year. Mario Lemieux and Ron Burkle will remain part of the ownership group, but FSG have a new acquisition. And yeah, people are making their jokes about, they're going to start serving clam chowder at the Penguins games and stuff like that.
Fuck yeah, that's great.
It's just, we'll have to wait and see what this means in terms of the approach that they take. I mean, the bottom line is I'm sure Fenway Sports Group would have loved to have owned the Bruins. That was not going to happen. The Jacobs family, Jeremy Jacobs, the owner of the Boston Bruins, his ego
It's the House of Jacobs.
is too big.
House of Gucci.
TD Garden, it's his cathedral where people pray to him.
Yeah.
Like, his ego is too big to sell the Boston Bruins. It is a part of his identity that he is the owner of the Boston Bruins. He was not going to sell them for FSG, especially when the fact that apparently the number for the Penguins is $900 million.
Whew. Yeah.
That's the one. That's the number I heard. I don't know if that's official, but
didn't we say
unless
Lemieux got into it for like $100 million? We
it was something like that. Yeah.
And
so we did talk about that in a prior episode, but the history of Lemieux with the team, saving the team, how much he paid for it, it's in terms of what it means for Lemieux, it's a massive return on investment, and he's going to stay with the team, which to me feels like the only way to stop some Penguins fans from trying to burn down the stadium. I don't know. Like, we don't know what this means for the Penguins. We're going to have to wait and see, but at the end of the day, yes, a Boston-based ownership group now owns the Pittsburgh Penguins. What difference does it make, though?
It doesn't.
At the end of the day, right?
Like, people are going to make a deal out of it because they want something to talk about, but it's an ownership group. Like, yeah, it'll depend on who they hire for GMs and stuff like that, but like, I mean, it's Fenway at the end of the day. Like, they're pretty good at getting some of the best guys available. I mean, Boston Red Sox are legit still one of the better franchises, like in the last couple decades. I mean, they were,
I mean, it's one of those things where obviously, like in the grand scheme of things, like, hockey wise, it might not be as exposed as, like in the Premier League, for example. Like, hey, guess what? Yeah, there's a lot of ownership groups that aren't from England. Again, I mentioned that FSG themselves own Liverpool. You look at Stan Kroenke, who of course owns the LA Rams and the Denver Nuggets, but he also owns Arsenal. Like, outside of the U.S., they're probably more used to this. But at the end of the day, do you not think that there are people within the NHL that, aren't from there or have ties, like extreme ties to the area? Like, I don't know. Do Sharks fans bitch that the owner of the team is German?
No,
Pretty sure they don't.
We don't
Pretty
care
sure that doesn't fucking matter.
because he lets Doug Wilson spend it to the cap and he lets him do what the fuck he wants. Like, it doesn't matter. Like,
right.
It's an owner, man. Who cares?
Exactly. I mean, as long as, hey, if your team's competitive, does it really matter what region the money's coming from? So we'll see what happens. I mean, it could have an effect, certainly, moving forward. God, then we'll move on to this as well. Sorry, I just seen a stat line somebody posted. Jake DeBrusk before and after being cross-checked in the head by Nazem Kadri.
Jesus.
Before, 146 games played, 93 points. After, 168 games played, 73 points. Is Nazem Kadri to blame for Evander Kane eventually being a Boston Bruin?
Probably.
The biggest point gap ever, but yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. Definitely not extreme. I just saw it and I'm like, this is interesting. Also on Saturday, the Stars beat the Coyotes 3-2. Dallas 7 wins in their last 10. They've won 4 in a row, so up to 10-7-2. Certainly a team to look out for as we move forward here in the next little bit. The St. Louis Blues beat the Columbus Blue Jackets 6-3, but as mentioned with the Blues, 3-5-2 in their last 10. They're at 11-7-3. Certainly some concerns, like Sin mentioned, like, hey, give it time. Let's see what the Blues really are. It was a good game against the Jackets, though. Bushnevich, 2 goals. Barbashev, 2 goals. Boqvist for the Jackets actually had 2 goals as well. So how's that Seth Jones working out for you there, Chicago? The Avalanche beat the Preds 6-2. The Avs are 7-2-1 in their last 10. That is without Nathan MacKinnon. I'll remind you once more, who is due to come back soon. I think against Toronto was the word. Rantanen had a hat trick on Saturday, up to 10 goals on the year. Cale Makar has a 6-game point streak with 7 goals and 5 assists in that time. The Avs have no reason to not win the Stanley Cup.
Nope.
Period.
They're going to blow it again. No, I hope not. I really hope not. Please don't blow it again. Like, really, this is their year. It could have been their year last year, but this is for sure the year. The East doesn't have a team like them. You can argue Florida, but Florida's still unproven.
I mean, Florida, Carolina, Tampa, but
I question Tampa. I know they're still doing good, but I don't think they have the depth to go all the way again.
Colorado should win.
They should.
Like, Colorado's biggest task again is Vegas. Like, I mean, and then again, Vegas right now, obviously going through a lot of injury troubles. We have no idea what they'll look like by the end of the season.
It doesn't matter. They're going to go to the playoff rulebook, and Vegas will succeed because they play like shit. Yeah. And by play like shit, I mean they bend the rules so fucking much, and they have that kind of team. And they have that kind of team of a bunch of workhorse guys who aren't going to be as skilled as the next team, but they're going to, do all those under the radar penalty shit to get away with it.
Your point, looking at the Eastern Conference here, right, and the West. In the West, there's only one team that has a point percentage above 0.7, so 700, and that's Edmonton at a 0.75. No other team in the West is over a 0.7. In the East, you have 5 teams that are over a 0.7 at this stage of the season. Toronto, New York, the Rangers, that is, Florida, Washington, and Carolina.
Yeah, again.
The reason why I say that isn't to say, like, oh, you're wrong about there not being a team in the East. The East is a bloodbath.
Yeah.
In theory, whoever gets to the finals from the West should have an easier time, in theory, because the East right now looks like a murderer's row just for whatever team's going to make it.
Yeah, and I also just kind of the way the rosters are built, too. Like, I know Washington's doing pretty good, but, like, all of them, all those teams, like, in the East, Toronto, until they actually do something in the playoffs, I never consider them a threat. Florida, I think, is probably the biggest possibility for the East in my mind. I think Capitals, while good, I don't know if they're going to have enough depth and goaltending to go for a deep playoff run. They got Ovi doing his thing right now. Yeah, I don't know. It should be the Avs, but, and again, the reason I didn't even mention the Oilers, which I'm sure a lot of Oilers fans get mad at, but here's the thing. It's the rulebook change in the playoffs. They're gonna hold and yank on McKinnon, and on McDavid and Draisaitl, and they're not gonna be able to do what they do. Oilers are probably not getting by the second round. I hate to say it. If they call the fucking rulebook, like it's
I mean, John Tortorella said as much 2 weeks ago.
I know, and it's stupid,
You know?
and they shouldn't have to adjust their game, but that's the way it is. But hey, maybe McDavid's just too good, and he won't let it happen. We'll see.
Want to mention as well from the Avs Pred game, Matt Duchene scored his 13th of the year. So, all you Hut fans out there, congratulations. The final game on Saturday, the Jets beat the Flames 4-2. 2-goal game for Kyle Connor. Who else? 13th and 14th of the year. I have a Jets jersey, and I love it. It's their third jersey now, the one that they wore in the Heritage Classic, the dark blue with the white and red striping. It's a Scheifele. I feel like I should sell that and get the same jersey, but of Kyle Connor. I feel like it's almost wrong for me to not have a Kyle Connor jersey.
Yeah,
at this point,
you don't want a Scheifele jersey.
Not anymore. I wanted it before. Now I question it.
Jeez.
Also for the Flames, Kachuk scored his 10th, Lindholm his 9th. So again, the star player is still doing well. And that brings us into Sunday's games, the last day that we have to talk about here. And we'll run through this relatively quickly. We still have one more big rant to come. Don't worry. God damn. And here I thought we might finish the show in a somewhat timely manner, but LOL, especially as news keeps breaking. On Sunday, the Caps beat the Canes 4-2. The Capitals' third win in a row. They've won 8 of their last 10 as Ovechkin scored his 19th of the year. At age 36, he is tied for second in points in the league with Connor McDavid. McDavid is at the highest point-producing pace of his career, and Ovi is matching him at age 36.
He's literally in an NHL franchise mode now. What he literally does, it always seems to happen. You get those really good players, and they hit age 35, 36. They always have 1 or 2 more ridiculous years where they have 100 points. That's what Ovi's doing right now, and it's fucking hilarious.
Ovi's 31 points are the most in team history through a team's 20 games. Think about that. Alex Ovechkin has been on this team for almost 20 years, and this is the best point pace that Ovi's ever had.
That's insane.
He is 36. Absurd.
Again, this year is such a weird year. It's so cool, though.
And we talked about it earlier, but also Carolina, a bit of a COVID scare as well, as defenders Brett Pesce and the previously mentioned Tony DeAngelo are both currently in quarantine. So,
well,
one of those is not surprising.
I don't know. I mean, they're in COVID protocol. Who's to say they're in quarantine? Don't tread on him.
No step on snake.
He could leave if he
No
wants to.
step on snake.
No step on snack.
I love that so much.
Oh my God. The Minnesota Wild beat the Tampa Bay Lightning 4-2. That's 3 straight wins for the Wild. Ryan Hartman, his 12th of the year. We mentioned the Wild 3 times today. All 3 games Ryan Hartman scored, if I'm not mistaken, which is just ridiculous. And also a side note that I saw right before we recorded, the Minnesota Wild are going to retire Mikko Koivu's jersey as of March 13th.
Okay. I mean, that seems like retiring a guy to retire a guy, but all right.
Yeah.
Well,
there's debate over whether or not Joe Thornton and Patrick Marleau should have their jerseys retired, and you're talking about Mikko Koivu in the same conversation as them?
Well, I think for the Wild, at least, though, you kind of, you kind of have to.
I guess.
Mikko Koivu, it's not the sexiest name in the world, but he has played almost 300 more games than anybody else in a Wild uniform. He's the only guy to break 1,000 games in the uni. Second is Nick Schultz, and then Jared Spurgeon will take second place by the end of the year. Second, only one of 2 players to get 200 goals for the team, Marian Gaborik being the other one. He's the all-time leader in points. So, Mikko Koivu, not the sexiest name in the world, probably not a Hockey Hall of Famer, but in terms of, Minnesota.
Yeah, okay, I get it from the Minnesota standpoint. I'm always thinking, usually the numbers are retired.
League-wide.
Yeah, they're usually Hall of Famers, too. Those guys who get the number. But I guess, the importance of him to that franchise, it would make some sense. It's just, I guess. Not trying to be a dick to Minnesota, but it's just, that weirded me out a little bit.
The Sharks beat the Hawks 2-0 on Sunday night, last night. James Reimer with the shutout. Timo Meier, 2 goals, his 8th and 9th of the year. Sin, your
And how
thoughts
many-
on this game?
A Reimer literally stole the game. The first period, the Sharks were pretty heavily outplayed. Then they got enough, but yeah, James Reimer. It's so nice to have a goalie steal a game. I forgot what that felt like. It's been literally 5 years since a goaltender has stolen a game. And we just saw it in James Reimer. What a bright spot he'd been. And they kept playing him too. This was his 4th start in a row, which is the first time this season any Sharks goaltender has started that many games in a row. And it was him coming off a performance which wasn't very good. However, it wasn't his fault. Like, his last game wasn't that good. And I like that the coaching staff said, all right, throw him back in there. And he rewards us with a shutout. And yeah, Timo Meier, 8 and 9 goals. I think he's at 12 or 13 games played? I can't remember.
Something like that.
Because of the COVID stuff. But he is...
so.
Yeah, it's great. Like I said, the pieces that we needed to fall into place at the beginning of the year for us to have a chance are kind of falling into place. Not cleanly and not amazingly, but it's at least good hockey, and that's all I care about.
As well, the other side of the coin, the Chicago Blackhawks, they are 6-4 in their last 10.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
They are still 6 points back of Dallas for 6th in the division.
Good.
6 wins in their last
Good old
10.
Central.
And they're still 3 wins back of Dallas for 6.
And Dallas isn't even doing that good. But they're all right, I guess.
Dallas is rough right now.
Oof. I'll skip this next game and come back to it for our main event because I think it's the most main event worthy. One more big rant to end the show. So I'll skip ahead to the Devils beating the Flyers 5-2. Dougie Hamilton, 6th goal of the year. Nate Bastian gets his 2nd of the year after returning to the team from Seattle. And Andreas Janssen, we'll mention him again. He scored his 8th and 9th goals of the year. After a 4-point night, he has 17 points in 19 games. Last year, he had 11 points in 50 games. So, good for Andreas Janssen. I am so excited for the Leafs to have a midseason lull. And people are going to say, we should have fucking kept Andreas Janssen and Carl Grundstrom and all that's going to be so great. I know Endo's looking forward to it.
I can't wait. I legitimately cannot wait. I don't know. Leafs are doing pretty well on their own right now.
Yeah.
Well, we're getting to that.
swept-
Yeah, in a
Oh,
second,
yeah.
too. So for the Devils, too, Jack Hughes is nearly back, which is great. But then the Flyers. I believe that's the 3rd or 4th time I mentioned in this episode. They are 2-6-2 in their last 10. Down to 8-8-4 on the season. Interesting. I mean, Carter Hart's numbers, I believe, have still been pretty decent.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's going on, but I don't know what's going on with that team right now. But
I do.
makes you wonder. I mean, it becomes a little bit easier to pull the trigger on making a change when you're not the first team to do it in the season.
Yeah. Also, unfortunately for Ristolainen, he can't do 2 things at once. When he gets going offensively, his defense suffers. When he doesn't do anything offensively, he's okay defensively, but he's just whatever. Big Viking man goes boom and he lays the body, but he's just not the guy, unfortunately. He's a guy I want to root for too. He's a cool dude. I've heard him in interviews and stuff, but it's just, yeah, that's a lot to give up for him.
And also on Sunday night, penultimate game we'll mention here, the Toronto Maple Leafs moved to 16-6-1. Remember when they threw a jersey on the ice after the 4th game? They beat the Anaheim Ducks 5-1. Matthews up to 10 goals on the year. It is 4 wins in a row for the Leafs. They are 9-1-0 in their last 10, dominating their Western road streak. 7 straight wins on the road.
If only they could play the West in the playoffs, but they can't.
Right? I fucking
The
wish.
Leafs' previous record for most, they are basically the Calgary of the East.
Yeah.
Remember when we talked about Calgary dominating the East but sucking in the West? The Leafs are the inverse. But the Leafs' previous record for most wins in a single month was 10. They've already won 12 games this month. And they just swept a 4-game road trip and won each game by at least 3 goals. That hasn't been done since 1978-79 by the Canadiens.
Yeah. Well, now. Yeah.
And again, the sky was falling a month ago.
Yeah, I blame the fucking media. Always blame the media. No, but they're a good team. That's the thing. They're like one of the best. But when it comes to actually showing up on time for stuff like the playoffs, they just don't.
Yeah, so they have
Maybe
a good
this is-
roster.
Yeah, It's a great roster, great on paper, but just can't fucking show up when we need you to show up.
It seems like they figured something out, though, at least. So, hey.
Yeah, I mean, let's find out this summer. This summer in the playoffs.
This summer, will the Leafs make it out of the first round? Or will it be
in bed by
Groundhog Day?
Meanwhile, at the Legion of Doom. Anyway.
And our final game to talk about. The Boston Bruins beat the Vancouver Canucks 3-2 in what might be Jake DeBrusk's last game as a Bruin. Well, actually, God, yeah, he was kind of, I don't even know if he played that game. That's so unnoticeable he's been, but I guess now we know why. Anton Bleed scored his first. Yes, Anton Bleed is an NHL player. Brad Marchand scored his 9th. It's not the only thing that he did. David Pastrnak scored his 7th of the year. For the Canucks, we'll talk about them first. Tanner Pearson scored his 3rd, Connor Garland his 6th. That's all well and good. It looks like the Canucks had this game because the Bruins kind of struggled out of the gates. Vancouver 1-8-1 in their last 10. 4 straight losses. 6-14-2 on the season. Yet no moves. An apparent divide in the locker room. Pettersson maybe being a point of contention. I mentioned Matt Barzal earlier in the show. His 8 points in 17 games. That means Matt Barzal is on pace for 38 points. Pettersson's only on pace for 39.
Yikes.
And still no moves. Montreal made a move before Vancouver, and Montreal made it to the Cup final this past season.
Yeah.
I don't know what Vancouver's
Holy shit,
doing.
Vancouver, would you do anything?
It's like when you're poking the guy with a stick. Come on, do something.
What is
It's
up with
literally the meme of we've tried nothing and we're all out of ideas.
Yeah, and why does this seem to be... What is the thing with Canadian teams? That they're so hesitant to do fucking anything. Like, they don't want to rock the boat. They're afraid of media backlash. Can someone grow a pair of nuts in Canada?
Nuts.
Like, not to, trash the whole country, but maybe a little bit. At least in the hockey
Do it.
management side of things.
They're not as ruthless as us Americans.
Well, no, I don't know. Like, it's just weird. Like, they're so fucking afraid. Like, oh, we don't want to make a wrong... Like, you've made plenty of wrong moves. You allowed wrong moves to happen. Like that one quote, we don't want to make a move that set us back for 10 years. You already did that. There's been several of those done by Jim Benning, and you're allowing him the space and time to continue doing that. Get rid of him. It's not Travis Green's fault, but you're going to have to get rid of him too because the new GM's going to want to choose his coach, whatever. He's a casualty of this. Stop letting that locker room fall apart. You're gonna lose. You're gonna lose your franchise. I don't care. Like the move that's gonna set you back is continuing on this path right now, and you're gonna lose Pettersson. You're gonna lose Besser either by them leaving or them just being shells of themselves, which is what Pettersson looks like right now. There's no cohesion in that. And Quinn Hughes. Fuck. You know how much talent's on that roster?
A lot.
Holy.
Yeah.
So here's my issue. Their forward core is not that bad.
No.
It's actually pretty damn good. This defense, though. You have $15.76 million tied up in Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Tyler Myers, and Tucker Pullman. That is 20% of your cap. 20% of your cap tied up in OEL, Tyler Myers, Tucker Pullman. How does Jim Benning still have a job?
I don't understand it. Like that's what's weird to me. Like Chiarelli stayed for so long. Like Chiarelli's last hurrah was to sign Koskinen into that fucking contract. That's gonna happen again to Vancouver. He's gonna try to do like one last ditch thing to like do something, and it's gonna be horrible. And he's gonna do a Jim Benning thing, which is sign a role player to $3 million.
With that, we'll get to the main event of the show. I mentioned Brad Marchand did something else. He slew-footed Oliver Ekman-Larsson on Sunday night. There is no defending it whatsoever. It was a cheap and dirty play that, yes, Brad Marchand has had the tendency to do in the past. He has not done in a long time, but that does not excuse it. Ended up having a hearing for said slewfoot, and, while he wasn't a repeat offender, he was suspended for 3 games. The inconsistency of the DOPS is something that we've talked about for this entire show, and We've talked about other slew foots throughout the season. We've talked about PK Subban's tendency to, slew foot.
Yep.
This season in particular, I have talked about ad nauseum the Tucker Pullman hit to the head that resulted in 2 games.
That's what I was.
We talk about a glove being 5K, but Brad Marchand gets 3 for a slew foot. I'm not saying that 3 games for a slew foot is necessarily a bad thing, especially for someone like Brad Marchand. But the inconsistency of this league is absolutely infuriating. That's all I got. I'd love to sit here and rant and rave more about it as much as I can. But frankly, I'm sick and tired of having to call the Department of Player Safety completely inept.
Well, there's no other way to say it. They don't know what they're doing. It's quite clear. Or if I think what they're trying to do is I don't even know what they're trying to do. All I know is what they're doing right now is they're not setting any sort of precedent. And they're scared of themselves at times, but then not to me. It's like the NHL refs. Oh, we don't want to have an effect on the game, but by doing something not right, by not calling it as you should, you have a greater effect on the game. By the Department of Player Safety giving Tucker Pullman 2 games for swinging a stick and connecting with someone's head, you basically you set this bar of well, shit, okay. We can't do such and such for this amount because we saw a guy who swung a stick at someone's head got only 2 games. Oh, wait, Marchand just slew foot someone. Well, that's a pretty rough slew foot, pretty dirty. And it's Brad Marchand, where there's going to be a lot of backlash if we don't do something to give him 3 games. And now you're stuck with, you slew foot someone. That's worse than hacking someone in the head with a stick when concussions are a major problem in the NHL. Yes, a slew foot can also hit the head. I don't know if it happened on that play. I did watch it. I didn't look like it did. Either way, it's like Tougie said, the inconsistency is not only infuriating, they're not doing themselves any favors. No one has any faith in them. No one has any faith in the Department of Player Safety, and it's because of their lack of being able to set a precedent, their lack of any sort of consistency, and their own fault because they're trying. I don't know what they're trying to do. They're trying to not be too severe. It's awful. They need to get rid of George Parros and put Paul Kariya in there. Someone who actually gives a fuck about player safety. Not some God. I don't care if he graduated from Princeton. He has shown he can't do the goddamn job. Get someone who's not an NHL dick rider in there, and that would be Paul Kariya. Rant over. I did the rant for you, Tougie.
There you go.
There you go.
Spot on.
So
did we miss
with that? I think
did we miss
unless you got something.
Did we not talk about Austin Matthews and his comments towards Gord Miller? Well,
no,
generally
I didn't see it.
Okay, so we'll talk about this a little bit better. So TSN reporter Gord Miller is asking Austin Matthews on his performance and how he had a little bit of a slump and how he's basically getting back into shape. Austin Matthews says verbatim, I don't really care what you guys really say. I go out here and do my job and get out there. And Gord Miller's response is he's like, no offense, and he's like, yeah, none taken. I think that's probably the best media to player response I've seen in the last little while, where guys are willing to finally open up and be like, you know what? I'm going to be really honest with you. I don't really give a fuck what you think. I'm going to go out there and do me and do that. And I'm glad that Austin was comfortable just being he's always been comfortable with just telling how it is. And I'm glad that obviously Gord Miller wasn't too upset by it. He's just doing his job, and Austin knows that as well. But he's like, you know what? I'm just gonna lay it out flat. I think it's something that the NHL needs a lot more of, instead of just
I think between what you just mentioned about Austin Matthews and what Sin mentioned about Brady Tkachuk,
yeah.
I think that's. I think in general we're going to just kind of see that natural change of people being willing to just express themselves more consistently than just pucks in deep and we're playing hard and all that shit. I think you are going to see. Yeah, I think you are going to see the transition to people being more honest and showing more personality, because let's be honest, in the world that we live in, it pays off in more ways than one to show more personality.
Yeah.
You having more of a personality and trending on social media and so on and so forth is extremely profitable and good for your business and good for your brand. So I think you're going to start seeing more of those players that are willing to be more open and honest. So, yeah. So good on Austin Matthews. And good on you, everybody, for making it through another edition of this podcast. We thank you very much. Again, we had a lot to catch up on. We will be back on Thursday for more of the adventures of the Department of Player Safety and us. A mental hurdle that we have to continue to jump over. Otherwise, it'll bring us all down because we still don't know what the hell's happening there. Will Jake DeBrusk be a Bruin by Thursday? Will Evander Kane be a Bruin by Thursday? I can't wait to find out.
Find out next time on this episode of Tougie's Take Podcast.
God. Again, you can find Endo everywhere at Endo Mills. Sin's everywhere, basically at Sin for the Win Prod /Productions, whichever one it may be. You can find him. I'm everywhere at Tougie24. We will see you all on Thursday. Goodbye for now. And fuck George Barrows.
Hell yeah.
Fuck Barrows.